I call this meeting to order. This is an annual public hearing for the World's Best Workforce Plan for the Northfield Public School District. Today is Monday, October 28, 2019, and the time is 6:15 p.m. The presentation, following the presentation of the 2019-20 World's Best Workforce Plan and the plans for the upcoming school year by the district's Director of Teaching and Learning, Mary Grace Hansen, and the district's Assessment Coordinator, Hope Langston, there will be an opportunity for community feedback. I'd like to remind board members that this is an opportunity for members of the community to provide feedback to the district. As board members, we will have the opportunity to ask questions and provide comments during the regular school board meeting following the public hearing. We know it's a rather lengthy presentation, and in the interest of time, we will turn it over to Mary Grace and Hope. Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us tonight as we present our World's Best Workforce. This is mandated by the legislature, and we've done this for 5 years, so we're getting pretty used to this, and we'll go ahead and start with our presentation. We always start with our vision, and that's
I don't want to put it that way.
okay.
We're going to go
There we go.
simple.
We will prepare every student for lifelong success within a world-class learning environment with a commitment to community partnerships and sustainability. And our mission, we deliver educational excellence that empowers all learners to engage in our dynamic world. So one of the first requirements that's not really part of the 5 goal areas is that all students have access to a highly qualified and experienced teaching staff. And you can see by the chart that across the top we have the percent of experienced educators, the percent of licensed educators, the percent of educators with advanced degrees, and the poverty percentage of each school. And if you go down the side, it's Bridgewater, GVP, Greenville Park, Sibley, middle school, high school, and ALC. And you can see that the percentages are pretty even. So we can say with certainty that all of our students have access to a highly qualified staff, no matter the poverty level of their school. Goal 1, as always, is all children are ready for school. So our goals were 60% of incoming kindergarten students will meet the grade level benchmark on the fall MAP test, and 80% of kindergartners will score not at risk on the SAVERS screener. And the SAVERS screener stands for Social, Academic, Emotional Behavior Risk Screener. And the teachers rate that in about mid to late October after they get to know their students. And the results.
So I know when you have your handout, you have that nice BAM in the middle of the slide, but it's not often I get to put in a transition like that, so I had to seize the moment. But here are the results for this year's incoming kindergartners, a class of 2032. And as you can see, they are one of the higher performing groups that we've had come into our schools in recent years. So we did meet our goal this year, which is big. So we're really happy about that. You can see, though, that the gaps exist, as we've discussed in years past, before our kids even come to kindergarten. And that is something we're going to address later in our presentation. And here you can see just the trend data, and this is the 2 years of MAP data. If you recall, the 3 years prior to 2018, we were doing the FAST assessment for K. That was offered free of charge from MDE as part of the kindergarten entry profile, but we really are liking returning to MAP because it follows the same growth and scoring as the kids in grades 1 through 8 take each fall. So you can see that this cohort looks very different from the prior year cohort. And also, I think it's important to point out that we are taking this win, and we hope that next year we're going to actually see a trend. But it is nice to celebrate when we've had so many people working for so long to align what is done during the pre-K years. And so I'm excited about these results. Fall 2019 Kindergarten Savers results, we are waiting for one more school to finish their survey, so that data is not ready yet. We will share that with you when it becomes available.
So our goal is that 65% of incoming kindergarten students will meet the benchmark next year. So what's next? We have the construction of an early childhood center at Greenville Park, which will consolidate all of our preschool and daycare as part of the district. We're going to continue with the Mother Goose curriculum. As you recall, that's been made available to all daycares in Northfield, and I believe we have 26 of them that are taking part in that. We have hired, through community services, 2 preschool navigators that help parents and families navigate the preschool programs that are available in our community. We have pre-K and kindergarten joint meetings several times a year, sponsored again by community services. And we are expanding and continuing the data sharing with the area preschools. And I think Erin and Hope have been visiting them today to share some of those results. And we're going to continue our map testing so we have some consistent data. Goal 2, all third graders can read at grade level. So our goal was 70% of third graders will meet or exceed on the third grade Minnesota Comprehensive Assessment, the MCAs, which are given in April. And the results are that we increased the reading proficiency by 4.8% to 68.2%. So while we did increase, we didn't quite meet our 70% goal.
So we are now up 11% in 2 years, which is fantastic. And I do want to point out, Sibley and Bridgewater did hit that 70% goal. And Greenville, as you'll see, has had tremendous improvement. So two out of 3 schools did hit that 70% goal, and we're working on the third. So in terms of data, disaggregated data, here is how the third grade cohort last year broke down versus state averages. And as you can see, and again, this is a win that we exceeded the state average for every challenged student group. So the maroon bar is the state average for that group, and the gold bar is Northfield's performance. So that's a win. Third grade reading trends with new colors thanks to Northfield Forward's feedback. That group has really done a great job kind of digging in and saying what they need to understand this report better. And color choice was one of them. So here we are. And you can see the upward trends. And it is just really powerful to think about the work that has gone into third grade reading and literacy, K-5, the support of Northfield Promise and the Move 5 initiative. And these are all great wins for us, and it's nice to see them play out in the data for every demographic. So if you recall, back in 2017, we had a Carleton statistics team work on developing demographically similar peers for each elementary school. And what I really want to point out here is, because we're not going to go through all of these really in minute detail, but if you look at the 2019 bar and you just go across, Northfield Bridgewater is at the far right, and you just follow that bar across, you can now see that Northfield is outperforming. I'm going to get my notes here. They outperformed three of their peers, their demographic peers, compared to 1 the first year. And if you just look at the trends at the other schools, Farmington Elementary, downward trend. Russo, pretty flat. Parker, decline. Kenwood's been up and down. But Bridgewater, has done a nice job. They dropped a little last year, but they're up again. And so I think it's really interesting to see how people are performing across the state, and I think this is a much better comparison for us than comparing our 3 schools against each other, because they demographically look quite different. Here is Greenville Park, And this is where I want to highlight the fantastic work going on there, because if you look at those 3 years results in the far right, you can see that they have had tremendous improvement over the last 2 years. And they also are outperforming 4 out of 5 peers this year versus 1 in the first year of comparison. So just really, again, speaking to the great work that's going on around 3rd grade reading. And then Sibley, who's up against some tough competition because of their demographics. But again, they outperformed 3 out of 5 this year. And they didn't outperform any the first year that we started looking at this comparison. So good news for them. And you can see just some pretty awesome results across this peer group.
Okay. So we kept the goal the same because we were very close at 68.2%. So we will have, our goal is 70% again of our 3rd graders will meet or exceed on the MCA test. So what are our action steps? What's next? We are continuing in our 2nd year of our collaborative classroom curriculum implementation. We have our SIPS intervention that's part of collaborative classroom. That stands for sight words, phonics, and phonemic awareness. And then we are allocating additional minutes for small group instruction this year with the use of our instructional coaches as working with small groups of students. Goal 3 is all racial and economic achievement gaps between students are closed. And our goal was to measure the MCA achievement on reading and math, the gaps in the free and reduced population compared to the non-free and reduced population, English learners to non-English learners, and Hispanic students to non-Hispanic students. And we wanted to reduce that by 5%.
So what you're looking at is actually a picture of the size of the gaps. So this can be confusing to look at, but basically what you're seeing is, for instance, non-FRP, FRP gap. The non-FRP proficiency rate was 34% higher than the FRP proficiency rate in reading. And just for some context, last year the official MDE count was 26% FRP for our district, which is about a little over 1,000 students, 6% EL, about 252 students, and 14% Hispanic, which is a 579 students. So that was our official demographic count, and the one that's published on the report card. So this is a number of kids that we're representing in this gap. The math achievement gap looks similar. One thing to note about EL is as the state has really tightened up its exit criteria, and you must exit students who score a 4.5 on the access test with no more than 1 domain, less than 3.5. What the population you're seeing remain in EL are the students who truly have some continuing needs in their English language proficiency, and so it does not surprise me then that our gaps would be that large for non-EL, EL. So when we went to make the goal, we had some specific feedback from MDE. We get a little report card, Matt and Mary and I, and we have a different reader every year, so you never know. It's kind of like opening a Christmas present. And this year, they specifically spoke to this and did not want us to use test scores anymore. They wanted us to try something else, which we're wholeheartedly in agreement with, because the test score reduction we weren't making any real movement in that. So one of the things they suggested looking at was student engagement via attendance. And we know that attendance is being tracked really closely under ESSA. And so And I'm going to show you that we do see a striking difference between our FRP and Hispanic student attendance versus their non-challenged peers. So our goal then, because if they're in school, they're going to get the instruction, and we're going to go after the achievement gap that way by improving attendance. So the groups will meet or exceed 90% for the 19-20 school year. And just to review, the state has a goal in that top box that by 2020, they'll have a consistent attendance rate of 95% with no demographic group below 90%. And what that means for a student to be consistently attending, they need to miss no more than 10% of the school days in a year, which, as you can imagine, is a little tricky. If you go on a couple of vacations and you get sick, you're going to hit that 10% pretty quickly. The bottom bullets were an issue for us, and I think that the staff have done a fantastic job cleaning this up, in that if you are on a student-sponsored trip or something, a field trip or a team event where you are supervised by a school employee, that does not count against you under the ESSA attendance rules. So the key is to get everybody to be consistent about recording it that way, because we don't want it to count as an excused absence, so or an unexcused absence. So the training, Chris Nessett and I met with all the school secretaries a couple summers ago. I mean, there's been a good focus on cleaning that up, and I think it's gone well. But I'm going to actually take you, this will be interesting, yeah, we can do this, to our current reality on attendance, which is, you're looking at the district right now, and the gold line is where they want no student group to fall below as of 2020. Obviously, we're shooting for that. And then the green line is that 95%. So each set of bars is a different demographic group, and you can see it's all students, non-free and reduced lunch, free and reduced, white, and Hispanic. And those tend to be our cells that are large enough to be included in an account that goes public, because they're going to suppress any cell size that's less than 20. But what this doesn't tell, and you think, okay, well, here's where we can work. We can work on this group and we can work on this group, which happens to coincide with our achievement gap, right? And I'm just going to show you, for instance, what happens is at elementary, we tend to look pretty good. We're crossing those thresholds, and we look like we are going to make those goals by 2020, and they're ambitious goals. That's Greenville, this is Sibley. So FRP and Hispanics still tend to be lower, but we're much closer to those benchmark thresholds. But what happens is we get to secondary, and that's where you start to see the decline. And I know that Mary's going to talk about some of the things that are being done to address this, but that's Northfield High School. So we have some work to do. But again, in each of those, you can see that the FRP and Hispanic student groups are attending at a lower rate. They have a lower consistent attendance rate than their non-challenged peers. So we're going to go after that. So what's the best way to get back, Bruce?
I just click on the tab.
Here?
Second one.
This one?
Oh, that one. Oh, I'm
You're in
sorry.
PowerPoint.
I
you
know,
actually go
I
down to the
think I
bottom
want
of
to
the
be...
dock.
Here.
There.
Okay. So I just wanted to show you that's our current reality. That's where we're starting with this goal.
Click in the middle there.
And we received a lot of positive feedback from Northfield Forward last Monday night about changing our goal from relying on test results and getting more to the root cause of student achievement. So what's next? Well, through our achievement and integration plan, we were able to hire additional FTE at the ALC. We've hired, and we've since increased that, an EL teacher and an academic advocate. We also have had the addition of a Fernbrook therapist who will work with students during the school day in a private setting. We have Promise Fellows who work with students at the middle school and high school. We have Food for Thought nights as a combination of the EL program and the Torch program at the middle school. And those happen once a month at the middle school, where we invite families to come in and have a light supper, and then there's some type of program. In September, they did the parent survey results, and a lot of these families were quite interested to see what happened after they filled the survey out. They were very interested in some of the action steps that were being taken. And it was just last Thursday night, and they had some training on how to access Schoology and Skyward for parents. So those have been very well received. We have community school doing outreach, and we just had a report at this afternoon's Northfield Promise meeting, and she didn't know how many were there, but she said it was very crowded. So this is middle school and high school students that are showing up at Greenville Park to take advantage of some homework help and some time to socialize. And then, of course, this was again a suggestion that came from Northfield Forward last Monday night, that the adoption of a consistent reading and literacy curriculum at the elementary will help tremendously too. So goal 4 is all students are ready for career in college, or as we like to refer to it, choice ready. So the goals were to increase 8th grade proficiency on the MCA reading to 70% to meet and exceed, and to 77% for 8th graders on the MCA math, and increasing the percentage of ACT College Ready benchmarks for all 4 subjects to 40%.
So we met our goal for 8th grade reading. 72.5% of our 8th graders were proficient on last year's MCA test, which was an increase of almost 5%. 8th grade was down just a smidge, so they did not meet that ambitious goal in math. And 36% of the class of 2019 were college ready in all 4 subjects, so we did not make it on that goal. Again, exceeded the state average, and for those of you who maybe have a recollection of these graphs, this has not been the case, and we're seeing it now in every grade level where we're exceeding the state average in each of the demographics. There's the reading trends. So again, commitment by the team of Jane Weiland and Ann Jurdy, working with Rose and MTSS and Torch to get every kid growing as a reader, and some nice results for them. This is their peer group from that Carleton study, and as you can see, Northfield Middle School outperformed every demographic peer this year in reading. Math, similar, outperformed the state average for every demographic group. You can see the downward trend hitting especially for this cohort, the Hispanic and the special education student groups. That team's already back at it, by the way, digging in, asking for, they're working on a couple things, and so it's pretty exciting to see. And then here's their demographic peer group. So it was just Rogers Middle School who's had some phenomenal results to outperform them this year. Moving on to the ACT. These are the average scores for the last 5 years. And you can see Northfield 2015 was the last graduating class where it was not a requirement. So that's why that looks as high as it does. Starting with the class of 2016, that is when the state said every student must be, well, that year it was every student must take the ACT. Now it's every student must be offered the ACT. But we have, as part of the CCR team, people are addressing this gradual decline that has occurred for the last 5 years. Still outperforming the state and the nation. This is not a mirage. I was hoping that nation number would be in there today, but the state of college and career readiness is still not out, so they have 2 more days, because today is October 28th, and it's supposed to be out by the end of October. So that's why you're missing the nation bar. But again, it's a decline that we are concerned about, and some work is being done to address that, because this is not what we want to see. So 36%, again, higher than the state, and it will be higher than the nation, but we think that we can do better.
So our goals remain fairly similar. 75% of the 8th grade students will exceed on the MCA reading and math, and we kept the goal at 40% for the ACT readiness. So some of the things that we are doing are the flex period, and they are doing a lot of work. On Tuesdays, they have required work with a college and career ready curriculum. Again, the addition of the academic advocate. We have the multi-tiered systems of support at both the middle school and the high school with reading and math support, as well as the peer helpers to provide some social and emotional support. 8th grade adopted Newsella. It's an online reading program with a lot of nonfiction, reading passages and then comprehension questions. And we've expanded, again, with the addition of the funds from Achievement and Integration Plan, the use of Odysseyware at the high school and the ALC. Goal 5 is all students graduate from high school. And our goal is that 95% of us will achieve a graduation rate of 95% over a 4-year high school experience.
So the graduation rate is 1 year delayed. We won't get the class of 2019 until February. So the most recent graduation rate, official graduation rate is for the class of 2018, 92% for the district, 96% at Northfield High School. So you can see we had a nice improvement in the FRP and Hispanic graduation rates. The overall rate essentially remained pretty flat at 92% for the district. And again, this is the 4-year rate. The high school, a sizable increase in the Hispanic rate. And again, please remember that the cohort is pretty small, so you can see fluctuations just because the cell size is so small, but we'll take the win. And the FRP rate, again, at 91% is impressive. So as part of ESSA, you may recall that the ALC was identified for all students and white students for their 4-year graduation rate, which on a 3-year rolling average fell below 67%. We worked with the Regional Center for Excellence last year to develop a school improvement plan and some strategies to address that need. And so this slide is basically telling you as the school board that we are assuring you that these things, those 4 bulleted points are happening. And Daryl is working with a peer group to continue the reporting that's required in year 2. And you can see that for the class of 2018, the ALC did come back up. But again, it's based on a 3-year rolling average. So now the 2015 rates fall off. So it's going to take us a couple years to lose that 47.8%. And I think it's important to bear in mind that every single one of those kids that graduates from the ALC is a win. So really a 69.2%, every single one of those kids was predicted to not graduate. So these are impressive given the risk factors that these kids face as they enter the ALC.
So our goal is the same, that we will achieve a 4-year graduation rate of 95%. some of the action steps that we've implemented, the peer helpers in grades 9 through 12, and especially, as Hope said too, tracking the graduation cohorts, so we're sure we have the right students. That's been kind of a mess with the State Department. And again, we have the multi-tiered systems of support at the middle school and high school. The Odyssey Wear program helps a lot with this, and the flex time implemented at the high school.
Sure. So this is just a summary table for you. I'm not going to go through it. The wins clearly are, we met the kindergarten goal. All children are ready for school. Really close on 3rd grade. Met the 8th grade reading, and not quite there on the other points.
This year, as you know, we qualified to participate in the Achievement and Integration Program. And as part of the World's Best Workforce, we are to report on our goals. Well, we only started this as of July 1st, so we really don't have any data on the goal progress as of this point. But we have 3 goals, and you can see them here, that again, we're using an ACT score for college and career ready, and then a reading proficiency gap for our 2nd goal. And our 3rd goal is quite exciting. We are, as part of the Achievement and Integration Plan, we have to have an integration activity with students with the other districts in our partnership. And those districts are Faribault, Welcome, Elysian, Morristown, and Tri-City United. So on December 10th, we are having 20 students from each school gather at Carleton, and we are going to have a Youth Data Summit, very similar to the one that Hope and Carrie Duba and Malia Fallon planned last year. This has been extremely rewarding work. Zach Pruitt has helped us a lot with securing Carleton, and so we have that site. It's going to be exciting for these students to be able to come to a college and spend the day. And the students have worked extremely hard. I'm working with the District Youth Council, and they have come up with a logo. And this is pronounced YEAH, and it stands for Youth Excelling Achievement. And we're going to gather, and they even designed a postcard that we will send to the students when we get their names. We will gather for the day. We have, the students have planned the whole day with icebreakers, with examining data, with breaking into small groups, with coming up with some action steps. We'll provide lunch. They're all excited about having Subway. And Hope and the data gurus from the other districts will meet near the end of November to compile the data so we have consistent data and can print the charts and have posters and everything ready when the students gather on December 10th. So that is the end of our World's Best Workforce.
Okay, excellent, thank you. So as I had mentioned, board members, we will have the opportunity for questions and comments during the regular school board meeting as it's an agenda item. But at this point, I would like to ask if there are any community members present who would like to address the board. Okay, seeing no one come forward, I ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Tom. Is there a second? Second by Jeff. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.